Our keynote speaker obtained his political science degree from Ateneo de Manila University and recently finished courses in public leadership at Harvard Kennedy School. From a family of civil servants, leaders and artists, an artist himself, he is currently the chair of the House Special Committee on Creative Industry and Performing Arts. Also, as he advocates for multi-sectoral collaboration and the expansion of livelihood in the rural countryside through various forms of tourism and agriculture modernization, as well as galvanizing culture for both economic growth and nation building. It is my honor and distinct privilege to welcome and introduce the representative of the 4th District of Pangasinan, the Honorable Congressman Christopher Toff de Venecia.
Thank you, Ate. To the chairperson of the Senate Committee on Science and Technology and Senate Committee on Tourism, the sharp, intelligent, and youthful Senator Maria Lourdes Nancy Binay, my good friend. To one of the most accomplished members of the cabinet, longtime civil servant, PhD holder, and engineer, Secretary Fortunato Boy de la Peña, one of my favorites. To the ever-supportive and hardworking Undersecretary of the DTI from the Competitiveness and Innovation Group, USEC Fita Aldaba, PhD, ang kausap ko almost araw-araw. To the Philippine Fashion Coalition, led here today by my dear sister and former DTI Undersecretary Carissa Cruz Evangelista, as well as to the other members of the private sector who are ardent advocates of the textile industry. Engineer Stanley Siahetiong of 5 Cent Global Corporation, my dear friend Marga Nograles of Kaayo Modern Mindanao, and Miss Anna Lagon of Bayo. Greetings also to the speakers for this afternoon's leg of the program, namely Civil Service Commissioner Attorney Eileen Lourdes Lizada. Naku, napakagaling ng taong to. Mr. Andrew Dent of Material Connection, Mr. Dennis Gutenois of the Swiss Import Promotion Program, and of course, one of my mentors and co-advocates, Congresswoman Stella Luz Kimbo from the 2nd District of Marikina. To the entire DOST and DOST-PTRI family, led also by Director Celia Lumba and USEC Rowena Cristina Guevara. To our textile industry stakeholders at sa lahat po ng sumusuporta sa industriyang ito, isang magandang umaga at happy Philippine Tropical Fabrics Month sa ating lahat. Alam po ninyo, before becoming Congressman of the 4th District of Pangasinan at hanggang ngayon naman po, ako po ay isang producer at director para sa entablado. And because this had been my background, it was natural for me to advocate for the protection and development of stakeholders from my industry, the performing arts. However, this view quickly expanded to the much larger world of creatives. Na-experience ko rin po ang industriya ng pelikula at telebisyon, which I first encountered as a young child actor, and secondly, as a member of the Vera Perez family, to which my grandfather was the head of Sampaguita Pictures. Not long after that, of course, I was exposed to the world of fashion and textiles through my work in lifestyle media with the Philippine Star and Chalk magazine for almost 13 years prior to joining public office. Hilig ko po talaga ang sining at kultura, and in a way, nakasabak na rin pala ako sa mundo ng creative industries. It's a term that I really just encountered last year in the height of the pandemic when we were trying to ascertain as to what we could do to aid these ailing sectors of our economy. Kaya natuwa ako nang napunta ako sa Kongreso at natuklasan kong hindi pala ako nag-iisa. Bukod kay Congresswoman Stella Luz Kimbo na talagang may tuturing namin na fashion icon ng 18th Congress, maliban pa of course sa pagiging napakahusay na mambabatas at expert sa ekonomiya. Nakilala ko rin po si Congresswoman Angelica Ko na isang magaling na interior designer. Sina Deputy Speaker Vilma Santos Recto, of course, si Congressman Yul Servonieto, and Alfred Vargas na mga batikang aktor. Si Congresswoman Lucy Torres Gomez, na kilalang manunulat, negosyante, at TV and lifestyle personality, and fashion icon as well. At syempre, ang aking Lodi, si Deputy Speaker Lauren Legarda, who has always been one of the most important stalwarts of arts and culture and creative industries, most especially textiles. Hindi nagtagal ay nagsama-sama po kaming lahat. We formed a group of legislators in the 18th Congress called the Arts and Culture and Creative Industries Bloc, which abbreviates to ACHIEB. Naisip namin gawin ito para marami kaming ma-achieve para sa aming advokasya, lalong-lalo na sa creative industries. At the time, I had no idea on how important this small and simple group would later become. When the pandemic hit, one of the hardest hit segments of society were the creatives, artists, and cultural workers. In fact, they were even classified as non-essentials. Just like everyone, we were all in shock. But because we already had achieved at that time, finally we had a cause to really rally behind. We started gathering the different sectors of our creative industries in Zoom meetings to check up on each and every one of them. Nagsimula kami sa live events, which performing arts is a part of, fashion, music, visual arts, books, hanggang umabot kami sa animation, software, game development, architecture, interior design, landscape architecture, creative content, gastronomy, and more recently, comics and art toys. Siguro mahigit 20 sectors na po ang aming nakausap na itinalaga ng UNCTAD at UNESCO na parte ng creative industries. Well, the goal was always two-pronged. We wanted to see what aid we could extend to each sector in light of this ongoing pandemic. But at the same time, we also wanted to explore opportunities for growth, development, and acceleration. Perhaps in the process, we wanted to understand better what are the pain points in their value chain and what kind of congressional initiatives can be undertaken to be able to address these bottlenecks that get in the way of their growth and of them achieving their full potential. Kasabay nito ang pagbulusok ng mga miyembro ng ACHIEB. Mula 15, naging 20, naging 30, and as of last night, already 55 incumbent congressmen and congresswomen, including committee chairpersons, deputy speakers, and most prominently, even our very own House Speaker, Lord Alan Velasco, have solidified their commitment to the arts, culture, and creative industries of our country. Simple lang po ang layunin ng ACHIEB, and that is to streamline all our efforts, whether legislative or non-legislative, towards the preservation and development of this often overlooked sector. Be that as it may, crediting both former Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano and the incumbent Speaker Lord Alan Velasco, a special committee on the creative industry and performing arts was eventually created to legitimize this brewing movement in Congress. Since this development, which happened around October of last year, we have become even more relentless in working towards our goal for the creative industries. In coordination with DOLE, we were able to carve out some funds from Bayanihan 2 to provide aid to around 30,000 workers, mostly freelancers, in this sector. And for that, once again, I thank Speaker Lord Alan Velasco for really heeding the call of this industry, this sector that we are so passionate about. We also filed a number of House resolutions in support of the creative industries. I won't mention the others for their particular sectors, but one thing that I do want to highlight is House Resolution 1211 sa pangunguna ni Deputy Speaker Lauren Legarda, which seeks to strengthen the implementation of RA 9242 or the Philippine Tropical Fabrics Law. Recently, I led a delegation to visit the National Museum to witness firsthand the works of our national artists and cultural bearers. And in the process, we got to check out a special textile exhibition housed under the National Museum of Anthropology, which our very own Deputy Speaker Lauren Legarda and Deputy Speaker D.V. Savillano helped organize and put together. And through the House Special Committee, we filed and are currently deliberating the bloc's pet bill, the Philippine Creative Industries Act, which has been scheduled for a third round of deliberations next week. This measure, when instituted, will provide a solid framework for the development of our creative industries, and the governance mechanism such that this growth sector's full potential will be harnessed once and for all. And this brings me now to the overarching theme of this keynote: institutionalizing the pillars for a creative economy. Alam po ninyo, big word ang institutionalization. Palagi po itong ginagamit whether it's during our formal committee meetings or informal consultations with stakeholders. Pero palagay ko po, simple lang ang salitang yan. I would liken the challenge of institutionalization to the process of looking for the best suit or gown to wear for a special occasion, say maybe a wedding. On one hand, you can always go off the rack or ready to wear. Pupunta lang tayo sa department store or in our current context sa online shops, and we will find a coat and a pair of slacks that will fit us quite decently. The quality is simple and you can pay for it and check out the item fast. Ang tanong, tatagal kaya ito? On the other hand, if we want a better quality suit, we would have to go through the whole process of booking an appointment with a master cutter, choosing the fabric, deciding the fit of the suit, kung classic ba yan or slim fit, even down to choosing the buttons and styles of your suit. Then you wait a couple of weeks for the master cutter to work on it with the sastres, go back for fitting, waiting a couple more days for adjustment, and finally you get a suit that fits you perfectly. A talking master cutter, but this could easily be a men's fashion designer. Ganito rin sa gobyerno at policy. If you want something, you know, more accessible, there are many off-the-rack solutions that are available when you search online. There are a handful of templates and policies that we can copy from other countries. The question, however, is if those solutions fit our context. On the other hand, if we want something of quality, something that lasts, and something that fits us better, mas mahaba ang proseso. Mas marami ang kausap. Mas magastos. Mas challenging. Especially yung act of building consensus. And mas matrabaho ang paglalobby sa iba't ibang mga personalidad sa ating gobyerno. But the reward is always more gratifying. Institutionalizing the pillars of a creative economy, I think, can be summarized into 4 letters. Kung ang 2021 Textile Stakeholders Conference ay may TELA, which stands for Textiles Empowering Lives Anew, then kailangan natin itong itahi. So it starts with T, or with the way we think. Specifically, it starts with the way our country's leaders think about the creative industries. More often than not, our mindset when it comes to creative is, that of mere luxury or superfluity. Many people also think that a career in the creative industries may not be as stable and concrete as opposed to having a regular job in a private company or corporation. These old and traditional views need to change and must be changed from the top all the way down to the bottom. This change in mindset can be best exemplified by two of our biggest neighboring economies, China and Japan. Launched in 2010, a Cool Japan strategy was adopted by the Japanese government to stimulate demand for Japanese entertainment, fashion design, gastronomy, lifestyle goods, and tourism, led by the country's Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry, or METI. It should then be no wonder that we are all hooked on Japanese intellectual property such as Pokemon, Hello Kitty, Naruto, as well as being enamored by Japanese art culture and even fashion. And lest I forget, Voltes 5, which will be remade in GMA 7 by an all Filipino team. I'm sure you've all seen the trailer and we're all super excited about it. Sa China naman, the made in China jokes will soon be a thing of the past because for the past 10 years, their country has been pushing to migrate its economy from cheap and copycat manufacturing to one steered by high value content and innovation, which shall now be known as created in China. Cool Japan and Created in China are just some of the prime examples of how government is able to really rally its creative core towards grand ambition and sustainable and inclusive growth. And 2021 just happens to be the year, the United Nations year of the creative economy towards sustainable development. So how fitting that we're talking about this subject right now. Dito kaya sa atin, ano ang magandang strategy moving forward? Malayo pa tayo, but I am encouraged to see the seeds of creative development start to flower and flourish one by one. For one, I am very pleased that our textile industry is not only being developed through research and development, but also with the prospects for growth and greater economic contribution in mind, as evidenced by this very productive partnership between the DOST-PTRI and the DTI-CIG. The fact that we are being joined here in a forum such as this by our highest officials, with no less than Senator Nancy and Secretary Boy, is already great indication that we are moving towards the right direction. So punta naman tayo sa A, sa TAHI, which stands for the assignment or creation of an agency that consolidates efforts towards growth and development of our creative industries. Sa kasalukuyan po, nakakalat sa iba't ibang ahensya ng pamahalaan ang mandato para palaguin ang mga malikhaing sektor. And though this is a good start, and without discounting the achievements that each agency has made towards fulfilling their respective mandates, I think we are all at a consensus that the need to consolidate these efforts through a centralizing body or a coordinating council is prerequisite to the Philippine creative industry boom that we have all been anticipating. Sa current version ng Philippine Creative Industries Act, bubuo po tayo ng isang Philippine Creative Industry Development Council, which will be an attached agency to the DTI, recognizing the importance of research and development, science, and technology to our creative industries. The DOST will be a vital component of this council, which will do policy setting and be aided by a secretariat that will implement strategic programs in support of our industry stakeholders. Ang kahalagahan ng isang central body ay nagsisimula sa road mapping. Alam na alam po natin to. Any beautiful product starts from a sketch or an imagined outcome. Bihira po siguro ang fashion designer na dumidiretso sa pagtatahi ng walang sinusundang drawing or template or sketch. Puweran na lamang siguro kung sila ay nag-eksperimento. Ganun din po kami sa performing arts. As a director, usually you come into the rehearsal room with a script and also with ideas that you want to explore in the rehearsal room. Which is why in the said measure, a Philippine Creative Industries Development Plan needs to be crafted. Honestly, we have already lagged on this front. We need to look far and wide Or rather, we need not look far and wide because Thailand, for example, has had a creative economy agency since 2018. Malaysia's My Creative Ventures is the country's investment arm, launched all the way back in 2012 to spur its creative industries through strategic and innovative funding. Sa Indonesia naman, pinagsama pa nga nila ang kanilang Creative Economy Agency at ang kanilang Ministry of Tourism noong 2019, given their many intersectionalities. Tignan nyo naman, talagang naging puntahan na rin ng maraming turistang Pinoy ang Indonesia noong bago pa dumating ang pandemic. And of course, you have the Korean model, which started all the way back in the late 90s under Kim Dae-jung, when they recognized that the migration of cheap manufacturing then towards China forced them to really get creative, to think of new strategies to propel their economy. And they decided to look within and really harness the creativity of their people. I mean, we've always known that Filipinos are creative. I think it's about time that the state started investing in that, don't you think? This is why I think it is high time for our country to follow suit, considering, of course, our specific context and the opportunities that already exist within. H in Tahi is simply hard work. There's no substitute to hard work when you want to establish new ways of thinking. Hard work also leads to the fostering of new behaviors and a new culture. Ika nga, a new normal when it comes to how society thinks about and feels towards the creative industries. Because of our constant correspondence and consultations with the various sectors of the creative industries, we have created an environment where they feel heard and supported by stakeholders from government. And because of the fora that we continue to create, and this is one such fora, they feel more open to share with us their struggles and posit their solutions and most importantly, their ideas. Para po hindi sayang ang sipag ng creative and cultural workers natin, nilalayan din po ng Philippine Creative Industries Act na maglagay ng incentives para sa kanila. In the bill's current version, these incentives include the following: scholarships and trainings from DepEd, CHED, and TESDA. Alam naman po natin na hindi madaling i-develop ang skills ng isang creative worker. Kaya nga po sa industriya tulad ng textile and fashion, ang iba ay batang-batang nagsisimula ma-expose sa trabaho. Under the bill, we will enjoin the aforementioned agencies to craft a creative educational plan so that their current and future efforts can be streamlined towards developing our country's human resources in the creative field. There has to be strategic intervention in the K-12 system for textile, for fashion, and for the many other sectors that is part of these creative industries. The bill also seeks to provide better access to technical assistance programs towards digitalization of creative industries. Mahalaga po ang paggamit ng makabagong teknolohiya, lalo na sa pag-usbong ng 4IR or ang tinatawag nating Fourth Industrial Revolution, kung saan hindi na may tatanggi ang kahalagahan ng pagkakaroon ng online presence ng sino mang negosyo or negosyante. We also have fiscal incentives provisions that are consistent with the CREATE bill na pending ngayon sa bicameral conference. Under the current version, the bill seeks to encourage donations in favor of creative industry enterprises by exempting them from donors' tax and by making them fully deductible from gross income. We already know how talented and hardworking our creative workers are. So we believe it is high time for government to do its part in rewarding such hard work and in encouraging others to follow suit. And finally, letter I in Tahi is internationalization of our creative goods and services. Madalas nating marinig na world-class ang Pinoy. But in reality, maliit pa rin ang ating exports pagdating sa creative products. Based on an UNCTAD report in 2018, our country's total creative exports tallied at a little over $4 billion US. Malaki kung isipin, but in ASEAN, we are only fifth after Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia. We also have what has been called by the Creative Economy Council of the Philippines as the hidden creatives in the BPO industry, because we do not have an overarching framework for creatives in our country. Some of them are housed under different, though related fields. For instance, many of our creative freelancers, including animators, game developers, and graphic designers, are subsumed under the business process outsourcing or BPO industry. For freelancers alone, a study in 2018 estimated that around 1.2 to 1.5 million Filipinos were currently working on projects for overseas clients. This number may be lower now, considering that supply may have dwindled because companies all over the world are cost cutting. But nevertheless, this doesn't discount the fact that many Filipinos are earning income from overseas, creatively working on projects from the comforts of their laptops and their own homes. While this is well and good because Filipinos are recognized all over the world as one of the best producers of creative output, it is also an indication that Filipino artists are world class. And yet, we continue to be service providers rather than intellectual property creators and lag far behind our neighbors in Southeast Asia. This is a gap that we continue to explore and address as we embark on this long, exciting journey to explore the breadth and depth of our country's creative industries. Internationalization is also one of the primary goals of the Creative Industries Bill. For instance, Section 7 provides that the Creative Industries Development Plan shall provide strategies that will allow creative industries greater access to both national and international markets, and that will harness their competitive advantages. Under Section 9, the Secretariat is tasked to ensure the promotion, marketing, distribution, and export of creative industry output in both local and international markets in coordination with the Board of Investments, the Export Management Bureau, the Foreign Service Trade Corps, and the Center for International Trade, Expositions, and Missions, or CITEM. One of the realities, not just in the Philippines, but in other countries as well, is that sometimes local consumers are the last to appreciate local products as they tend to overlook their value and take them for granted until they gain some kind of international recognition. While this can be a sobbing fact, I pose this more as a challenge to our creative class to always think global. In fact, during this pandemic, there's been a boom in the consumption of local products and output. But even then, we always need to keep our eye on the prize, and that is global. We do recognize that there remains many in our exporters' value chain, such as the existing inefficiencies in our customs and logistics backbone and infrastructure. And I certainly hope DTI is looking into this, and we will also be looking into this in Congress. Perhaps there are anti-competitive logistics practices in our country that we really have to address, because sometimes the logistics cost is even twice the price of the creative goods that are being sold or exported. So there's something wrong in that equation. We need to be able to identify what it is and nip it in the bud. Be that as it may, please keep creating for the global market to continually grow our country's value as we in government do our best to address such issues. We will be happily sharing the latest version of the bill in the Zoom's chat function, although do note that this version will still be subject to change. Nonetheless, as early as now, we would like to excite everyone of what's to come. So, yes, this is something that we are passionately lobbying, and hopefully it really gets through the legislative mill in both houses. And joining Senator Nancy Bina, if you're still watching, to be the counterpart in the Senate, and hopefully this gets passed into law in this 18th Congress. Kahapon po, isang malungkot na balita ang bumalot sa mundo ng Filipino textile industry. At the age of 106, imagine that, Yabing Masalon Dulo has passed on to meet our creator. Yabing Masalondulo was a Filipino textile master weaver and dyer, credited with preserving the Laan traditional art of ikat weaving and dyeing. For this, she was given the National Living Treasures Award by the National Commission for Culture and the Arts. Fu Yabing started weaving at the tender age of 14. She never stopped working until 2018 when she was well over 100 years of age and only after figuring into a motorcycle accident. Dahil sa kanyang pagyao, isa na lamang ang master designer ng Mabal Tabi Art. Bagamat ito ay malungkot na balita, siguro kagustuhan din ni Fu Yabing na siya ay ating alalahanin ngayong buwan ng tropical fibers at sa panahong nagtipon ang mga stakeholder ng textile industry. Through her example, may we all be as hardworking and as passionate in the promotion of our country's most unique skills, talents, and art forms. Mabuhay po kayo, Fu Yabing. Ngayong araw po ay magfa-file ng House Resolution ng mga miyembro ng ACHIB upang opisyal na bigyang parangal ang buhay ng ating national treasure. And in honor of Fu Yabing's legacy, we will continue to write shop and work closely with the NCCA on our bill institutionalizing the schools of living tradition and addressing the concerns surrounding this program through legislation. To our beloved textile stakeholders, I would like to extend my deepest thanks and well wishes to all of you this morning. Let us keep working hand in hand because, as we always say in our block meetings and consultations, together we will achieve. Thank you very much and good morning to you all.
Thank you very much, Cong, for that lecture and for bringing us up to speed with the happenings in the House. So indeed, we see the institutionalization of the pillars of the framework by which and upon which the creative economy could actually be brought to actual benefits to our country. And the updates and insights are very well noted. The initiatives on your group, on your end, are also within our radar. I hope we also remain on the radar of the House in your committee as well. And we will be here providing the same technical support and innovation that's needed by the textile industry and by our textile stakeholders. So maraming salamat, Kong Tov, and to the rest of the other members, of course, of our creative bloc in the House. We wish you the best and more power as you champion the creative industry, and hopefully as well we see the revival and the revitalization indeed of Philippine textiles in our age. And so with that, we would like to officially at least end the opening ceremonies for the Textile 2021 TELA conference, and we will now be proceeding with the conference proper. So thank you very much. Please stand by as we move to the conference proper in a short while.